try to give myself grace. Everybody says give yourself grace. It's so hard for me to do that. At the end of the day, it's my fault.
What happens when a titan of the game, a figure celebrated for her strength and dominance, finally crumbles before the world's eyes? Brittney Griner's recent breakdown was more than just post-game frustration. It was a chilling glimpse into the crushing weight she carries every single day, revealing a story far darker than a single loss on the court.
And Mitchell's been quiet for a while, not anymore. In Canada with another assist. A big bounce back night for her. Mitchell dribbles behind the line to take the three. Howard with the one-handed rebound and putback.
6 players.
The box score will show a defeat, but the real disaster wasn't the final score. It was seeing a champion, an Olympic gold medalist, reduced to tears, confessing that she had let everyone down. This emotional moment wasn't just a reaction to a bad game, it was a trigger, a public manifestation of a private war that has been raging inside her ever since her life was turned upside down.
You talked about the desperation before game 2 on Tuesday. Just how does that carry over into tonight?
Well, I think anytime that you're a win or go home situation, there's desperation. And so it has to carry over. You know, we're in the same situation. Our back is against the wall. We got to come out and we've got to play with that sense of urgency. We've got to play with that hunger. We've got to value every single possession and every single opportunity.
To understand her tears, you have to go back to the moment her world stopped. In February 2022, Brittney Griner was detained at a Moscow airport, a routine trip for an off-season basketball contract that spiraled into an international nightmare. She wasn't just an athlete anymore, she was a prisoner, and the pressure was just beginning.
We've just been through so much this season, giving ourselves another chance in Game 3. Emotions are high.
This is a group that's confidence has really never wavered. This group has continued to show their heart, their character, night in and night out.
I think we all piggyback off each other within our group and our organization.
We've been in every kind of situation you can imagine, and we've been able to find ways to put ourselves in position to win, and this will be no different.
Somebody has to lose and somebody has to win.
For nearly 300 days, she endured a harrowing ordeal. The world saw headlines, but Griner lived the reality, a grueling trial, a 9-year sentence to a Russian penal colony, and conditions that would break even the strongest spirits. The psychological torment of that isolation, the fear of being forgotten, and the sheer hopelessness of her situation left scars that no one can see.
Indiana Fever are heading to the semifinals.
Driving to the foul line and the paint, lays it in. Sims crossover left to right, gets into the paint, layup, good!
Inside, Boston.
Her case quickly escalated beyond a simple legal issue. She became a political pawn, a high-profile bargaining chip in the tense relationship between the US and Russia. The fight for her freedom was waged on the world stage, and with every passing day, the weight on her shoulders grew heavier. She wasn't just Brittney anymore. She was a symbol, and her fate rested in the hands of global powers.
To Jones, throws it up.
No good! Game over! And the Fever are moving on!
The deal that ultimately secured her freedom only added another layer of controversy and pressure. She was exchanged for Victor Bout, an infamous international arms dealer known as the Merchant of Death, a man responsible for fueling conflicts across the globe. This shocking trade immediately sparked a firestorm of debate, with critics questioning if an athlete's freedom was worth releasing such a notorious criminal. This put Griner in an impossible position, forcing her to carry the unspoken burden of that moral calculus.
This is just 4 of 16 from the floor in Game 2. That's terrific, Paul.
When she was finally brought home in that dramatic prisoner swap, many thought it was a fairy tale ending. But her release wasn't the end of her struggle, it was the start of an entirely new battle. She returned to a nation that expected a hero, a WNBA that expected a superstar, and a fight that was no longer her own. The pressure to be okay, to perform, to justify the controversial deal that freed her was immediate and suffocating.
For Atlanta has not been good. 40%. Maybe a little higher than that, 45.
Indiana electing not to call a timeout. Boston almost gave it away. Into Boston for the lead. She hits it. Indiana goes up.
Boston gets it. Mitchell is denied, but then Jordan Canada falls. Bree Jones almost gets it, but that's a second defender that's gone down, and Bree Jones.
Behind the scenes, the reality was much darker. Griner has openly spoken about her struggles with PTSD and the mental toll of her captivity. She revealed she even contemplated the unthinkable while detained. A horrifying admission that shows the depth of her despair. These invisible scars followed her back onto the court into every practice and every game, turning the hardwood into a battlefield for her mind.
I don't think I've really gotten through all the way that I didn't let down, everybody in my family. And it was just, I think I'm still trying to get through that part. Still to this day. I try to give myself grace. Everybody says give yourself grace. It's so hard for me to do that. At the end of the day, it's my fault, and I let everybody down.
This is where the on-court performance becomes intertwined with her off-court trauma. For an athlete of her caliber, every missed shot or defensive lapse is frustrating, but for Griner, it seems to feel like a catastrophic failure, a public confirmation of the fear that she isn't the same player she once was, that her ordeal has permanently damaged her, not just mentally, but physically.
10, Mitchell, a little bit too strong. Boy, we got some stuff going on here between Aaliyah Boston and Bree Jones, who ended up on the deck. The officials are going to go over.
This is the context behind her heartbreaking words. I let everybody down. She isn't just talking about her teammates or coaches. You can hear the weight of a nation in that statement. The pressure to live up to the massive effort it took to bring her home. The guilt of not being the invincible icon everyone wants her to be. And perhaps the crushing feeling that her freedom came at too high a price.
Just picked up her second foul, so Hillman and Gray each with 2. Mitchell over the Boston screen.
And that was tough, her hands. But going back to that ball screen here, little movement in the first part of that screen by Aaliyah Boston.
Making matters worse, the public hasn't been universally supportive. While many rallied for her release with the WNBA campaign, she returned to face vicious attacks and criticism from a vocal minority. She was even publicly harassed at an airport by a so-called social media provocateur, a jarring reminder that for some she remains a target, adding yet another layer of stress to her daily life.
Attacking from the outside and now the inside. And Mitchell's been quiet for a while. Not anymore. Mitchell over to Boston. Again, the shot clock winding down. Mitchell, tough shot off the bounce to get around Jones.
2 steps behind the three-point line and the dribble handoff for Kelsey Mitchell.
The media's relentless glare has ensured she has no place to hide. Her trauma wasn't a private affair she could process in peace. It was a global news story. Every interview, every game, every emotional moment is dissected and analyzed by pundits and fans alike. This constant media cycle keeps her ordeal at the forefront of her life, preventing the very healing she so desperately needs.
A complete skill set in all that she can do.
It's the first miss for Atlanta as Howard could not get it to go. Odyssey Sims, this is what head coach Stephanie White wants from Odyssey. Gray with 10 points so far. Sims dribbled right into trouble and was able to score and get fouled.
Inside the locker room, an unspoken burden hangs in the air. While a team motto might be that we're all that we have, how can teammates truly understand what she's been through? There's no playbook for supporting someone who survived a Russian penal colony. This can create a subtle but powerful sense of isolation, even when surrounded by people who care. She is part of the team, but her experience sets her worlds apart.
Howard gets it in, but it's knocked away by Lexi Hull. Hull with the steal. And the Indiana Fever, beset by major injuries all year long, are on the doorstep of making the semifinals.
Then there's the physical toll, which cannot be understated. An elite athlete's body is a finely tuned machine, but Griner's was subjected to extreme stress and likely nutritional deprivation during her detention. Now she is pushing that same body to its limits in one of the most demanding professional sports leagues in the world, raising serious questions about her long-term physical resilience and whether the fatigue we see is more than just game day exhaustion.
Griner posting up, setting a screen ultimately that Shea Penny ran into.
Anytime Atlanta needs a bucket, they look to her, and she's wanting the ball as well with the last score for Atlanta.
To truly grasp the change, you have to compare the player she was to the player she is now. Before Russia, Brittney Griner played with a ferocious joy. She was an intimidating, dominant force who visibly loved the game. Now that joy often seems replaced by a heavy sense of obligation. The smiles are rarer, the shoulders seem heavier, and the game looks more like a job she has to do rather than a passion she gets to live.
Another one of the signees because of injuries in the game. As we approach a minute to go, aerial powers in.
The bench.
All the injured players to not just cheerlead, but also to give advice to all the newbies. Big block by Power.
Her role within her team, the Phoenix Mercury, has also been irrevocably altered. Before, she was a dominant center, a leader through her play. Anytime Atlanta needs a bucket, they look to her, as the commentators say of stars. But for Griner, that pressure is different now. She's also a symbol of survival. It's a role she never asked for, and it carries with it a unique kind of pressure that her teammates can't fully comprehend.
Indiana Fever are heading to the semifinals of the WNBA for the first time in 10 years. Kelsey Mitchell said, all that we've got, and we have all that we need. Cobbling together this roster, and here they are, about to be in the Final Four.
What you thought was impossible is possible. A team that has been devastated by injury, rallying on the road. One more time.
It's impossible to ignore the reason she was in Russia in the first place. For years, the stark pay disparity between the NBA and WNBA has forced many of the league's top female athletes to play overseas in the off-season to supplement their income. It was this systemic financial pressure that put her in a vulnerable position, a tragic irony that underpins her entire story.
Y'all are a tough bunch of I mean, I cannot even put into words how proud I am. It's like the toughness that it takes, like the gut checks that it takes. Like, y'all, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter because we've been through all of it, right? Yeah. So it doesn't matter the circumstance, it doesn't matter the score, it doesn't matter the time. You always put your best foot forward. You always get to the next play. And it's always someone different.
Throughout this entire nightmare, her wife, Cherelle Griner, has been her rock. Cherelle fought tirelessly for her release, becoming a powerful advocate and political force. But her journey has been its own silent battle, supporting a partner through unimaginable trauma, while navigating the immense public spotlight and the emotional weight of nearly losing the love of her life.
You actually just referenced it twice. It is Indiana. Dropped 2 of the 3 games to them this year, but you haven't seen them since late July. What excites you about that matchup?
That they haven't seen the releases yet. They caught us when we were at a bit in turmoil. Not only that, they whooped us one of those stretches. So, you know what? We'll buckle in, hone in where we can, and take care of business.
When Brittney speaks about being unable to forgive herself, she's revealing the core programming of a world-class athlete. From a young age, they are taught that mistakes are unacceptable and weakness is a choice. This mindset, which once fueled her rise to greatness, has now become a cage, trapping her in a cycle of self-blame and preventing her from healing. This brings us to the profound paradox of grace. In her own words, everybody says, "Give yourself grace. It's so hard for me to do that." For someone who has built a career on being mentally and physically tough, accepting imperfection feels like a personal failure. Grace requires vulnerability, something athletes are trained to suppress. Her struggle to find it is the ultimate battle between the champion she was trained to be and the human she needs to allow herself to be. If you look at her stats since her return, they are far from a disaster. She has put up all-star caliber numbers, proving she is still one of the best players in the world. But the narrative isn't about the numbers. It's about the impossible expectation that she should be completely unscathed by her trauma, and any performance short of her pre-detention peak is seen as a sign of failure. This raises serious questions about her future. How long can anyone withstand this level of scrutiny and internal pressure? Rumors and speculation have swirled about how much longer she'll play, and whether she can ever find a way to enjoy the game again without the weight of her past hanging over every single play. Retirement seems less like an end and more like an escape. Her ordeal sent shockwaves through the entire WNBA. Players who once relied on lucrative overseas contracts have been forced to reconsider the risks. Her story has become a cautionary tale, fundamentally changing the calculus for dozens of athletes who have to decide between financial security and their personal safety. The league itself has been forced to confront uncomfortable truths. You can't help but wonder about the unspoken what if. What if she had never been detained? What would her legacy look like now? She was on a path to be considered one of the greatest of all time, a trajectory that has been forever and tragically altered by events far outside of her control. That lost potential is a ghost that will forever haunt her career. In the end, Brittney Griner's tears were not about a single loss. They were the raw, unfiltered expression of a woman grappling with the aftermath of an unimaginable trauma played out on a public stage. It was the sound of a heart breaking under the weight of expectation and the desperate search for peace in a life that was stolen from her. The real question is not if she can win another championship, but if she can ever truly win her life back.